Awesome.
Yep.
Okay. So our next speaker is Jacob Flood. So he's originally an engineer, transition towards productivity and science, and authoring the book Study Smart. He's the founder of a software as a service tutoring company, and now founder and CEO of Ano, which is focused on productivity with elegant and innovative BCIs for everyday use. So I will pass this on to you, Jacob.
All right. How's it going, guys? I'm Jacob. I'm the founder of Eno. We are building what we're calling right now Fitbit for your brain. Our attempt at a new explanation of the way that our product works. So essentially, what we're building is actually what I'm wearing right now and speaking to you through. It's called Phone, and it's a what we're calling a Fitbit for your brain. We've taken a normal headphone design, so Bluetooth noise canceling headphone, and what we've done is we've added 4 EEG sensors, 2 in the ear cups and then 2 in the upper band. Actually, grab one to show you guys. And then from those 4 sensors, we're able to measure your electrical activity at A1, A2, and C3, C4. We use that to give indicators of your level of focus generally, which we measure through a combination of cognitive workload, cognitive fatigue, motivation, mind wandering, and a couple other metrics. And we built a software platform around that in order to give a sense to a user. The goal being that you wear this during the day like you would a Fitbit. You wear it whenever you want to focus at your desk, you take it off whenever you don't, and we'll give you insights about how your productivity and your focus change throughout the day while you're wearing that. So I want to give you just a little bit of background of kind of what led me into this. I'm a mechanical engineer by study. I studied at McGill, and I kind of just became obsessed with the science of productivity. I just love geeking out about the stuff. So I built like a tutoring platform that paid my way through university that was, about optimized learning and how you can consume information faster and digest it more effectively in order to get better grades. And ended up writing a book on study habits about the science of using cognitive hacks in order to be able to consume more information and be more productive as a result. And as a result, I kind of came into the neurotech sphere completely randomly. Like I didn't have any particular neuroscience background. But what happened was in my last year of university, studying at McGill, I knew I wanted to do something interesting. And I was intimidated by the fact that none of the paths that I was looking at looked perfect. They all had compromises, right? Like I could get a master's degree and study the field of mechanical engineering. But for anyone who's in mech eng, you know that once you go into the deep science of it, it's no longer, building cool airplanes and cars. It's more like studying the science of thermodynamics very deeply. Or I could go and get a job, and that felt like a very simple entry point into a career path I wasn't super into. And then there was this third option of being an entrepreneur, starting a company, and raising millions of dollars and becoming the next Zuckerberg, if you will. And it was very intangible. I found that the big problem I had with entrepreneurship was exactly that. If someone tells you, all right, look, you can go be an entrepreneur, 3, 2, 1, go, what's your next step? Like nobody tells you what you're supposed to do afterwards. And you just kind of flip-flop and falter for the first while in order to come up with an idea, a team, and frankly, the rest of a business plan in order to monetize. And so I got really lucky. I applied to the Next 36 and I got into their program. They're a incubator based out of Toronto that takes individuals, not companies. And so they accept you without an idea and without a team. And they taught us the fundamentals of what it looks like in that first step of entrepreneurship. So putting together the idea, putting together the basic pitch, raising money, building a prototype, and then eventually going on to commercialize it. And then after Next 36, we ended up getting into hacks once we had a proof of concept, and that was what eventually turned into the company we're now running. Really what led us into neurotech was the fact that I was really obsessed with this kind of science of productivity. And I found that, let's skip this slide. One of the big questions that I noticed was what was limiting people that I was looking at during my book writing was If you want to improve your productivity, the rate limiting factor for most people right now is the ability to have long, deeply productive focus sessions. We're very easily distracted as a generation, and it's very easy to get lost in what feels like focus and productivity, but is actually just procrastination. It's doing a lot of different things at once without actually committing to one task. And focus, as a result, is a knowledge worker's most valuable asset, hands down. And we wanted to build something for this, but the reality is, knowing how serious the problem is, right? 40% of knowledge workers never achieve 30 minutes of deep focus anymore. And 1 in 3 knowledge workers now say that problems focusing is their number one issue at work. And I don't know about you guys, but work from home has made this dramatically more difficult. We'll all have, longer meetings, longer work days, less time to actually focus on what moves our progress forward. Knowing all of this just doesn't really answer the question of like, so what? Like, what do you do with that information? My co-founder, David, had been going to Neurotech Montreal meetups and had been playing with a Muse headband. And what we decided as the first version of our company was like, look, man, what if we could take the Muse and just build an app that just tells you how focused you are? Because if you can measure it, you can improve it. And the first 4 months of our company was actually just pitching the idea that we're going to build an app on top of Muse to enable people to essentially have, some sort of Pomodoro session based on their focus with some neurofeedback element. We didn't really have the full understanding of it, but that was the pitch that we were going with. And what led us to the success that it became with, we've sold 5,500 of these, and we've actively raised from investors all across the world. It was the acknowledgement of the fact that if you want to picture what neurotech is going to become 10 years down the road, it's going to have to overcome some fundamental difficulties, right? So EEG has been used to improve focus for decades, right? You go into a lab, you hook up the 64 sensors with conductive paste, takes 45 minutes to set up, and then you can run through trainings and diagnostics and other efforts across dozens of different modalities to deliver, whether it's neurofeedback or brain training games or any combination in between. And there has been a dramatic innovation in the space in the last decade, right? The cost of electronics per sensor has gone from the medical cost of $60, $70 per electrode down to ours cost somewhere around $4 or $5. And alongside that, using pattern recognition algorithms, anything from your basic SVM to something a little more sophisticated like a deep net, increases your ability to find generalizable patterns in these signals. And where we approached the problem was saying, okay, if we want to be using this technology and we want it to become ubiquitous down the road, what has to happen in order to get there? And it was essentially one of two things in our mind. Either we need to come up with a device that is so good and so hugely value add that people are willing to wear it regardless of what it feels and looks like. And so some of the examples that you heard earlier today, right, of enabling speech, that is a 1000x improvement over the state of the art. And so someone will be willing to wear that regardless of what it looks and feels like, because it's just so profoundly valuable. Either that's going to have to happen, or on the other side, we're going to have to come up with a form factor that people want to wear, something that would be worn for dozens of hours every week, so we can get the insane quantity of data, the millions of hours and tens of millions of hours of data that we need to be able to enable the kind of AI pattern recognition algorithms that we know in other fields have enabled huge gains in accuracy. And so that's the path that we went on. We decided, we know that from today's technology, building something that is able to do everything that we dream of in a BCI in a comfortable form factor that you wear all day is not feasible. But we know that if we can get that first step of getting something that people want to be wearing for 3-4 hours a day, and our customers do wear it on average about 3 to 4 hours a day, then we could get to the point where we have the data in order to be able to accomplish that. And so we're saying that for the first time, you can now measure focus easily outside of a lab with a device that feels as natural to wear as a headphone. And that turns what used to be a $20,000 clinical BCI into a device for $399 that you can purchase on Amazon. We're really proud of the the engineering that was involved in that, because it required rethinking the fundamentals from the sensor materials and the positioning to the electronics and the way that it all hooks together to the data handling in order to be able to stream high quantities of data without filtering and compressing to eventually the algorithms and the UI that works on that. And where this leads us is that it allows us to get a tool that over the longer term will be able to give you insight into just your entire field of experience outside of the neurotech part of this. So the way that we describe this is we want to be able to understand your action, your intention, and your attention. So action for us in a productivity sense is what are you doing on your computer? So we monitor what apps you're using, what music you're listening to, and other indicators of productivity through the app that we built. Second is your attention. So we get that through the BCI. That's I think the missing factor in a lot of productivity tools where they know what they're giving you, but they don't know how you're reacting. And then finally, we're hoping to get your intention. So when you start scheduling stuff within our app and telling our app like, hey, I want to be doing this session on this day, now we know what you plan on doing and what you actually do. And that closed loop is where you end up getting a lot of value. And so, the end of the spiel is that we built a productivity suite around this. The goal is to take the BCI and the neurotech part out of it and really make this more about the experience that the user gets at the end of the day, which for us should feel like a Fitbit, should feel like something that you put on that feels as natural as anything you've ever worn. And that gives you insights in a well-designed UI that you could use to get real value out of, that doesn't require you to create new habits. So I'm kind of going to stop there. If you guys have any questions about the technology, I'd love to hear it. I'm happy to dive in deeper. Otherwise, I think that the part I could speak to the most prominently is the idea of the commercialization of it, right? Taking it from something that was just an idea and really had no clue what we were doing to something that is now, much more full-fledged. So if you want to reach out, if you think that any of what I said is valuable and you'd like to follow up with some questions, my email is written there, jacob@enophone.com. I answer them pretty regularly, so feel free to send a chat. Thanks, guys.